Chapter 6, Our Position, Part 1. There is but one truth at any and every given moment. This truth is the position of everything in the universe. This truth is unknowable to us. We cannot track all the atoms in the Earth's sphere, let alone the entire universe. Though I have said and implied everything that I'm about to say, I do not want to leave much room in your mind to wonder what I really meant. So here for you now, I state our position. We exist. We are made of everything that the rest of the universe is made from, and so we must be it, aware of itself. We live on a planet with trillions of other organisms. We are awarenesses inside of human brains. This is how we exist. The past can be perceived as nothing short of infinite. The same will be said of the future. We have not always existed, and now we do. In fact, the only time that we exist is now. There are 7 billion of us here on Earth. There is no purpose to our existence here on this planet. We simply exist. We have created all the purposes that we observe and respect today. The most basic of these purposes that we still disagree on is to survive. Some people believe that other people should not survive. All other purposes are manifested from this simple purpose that is not necessary for us to achieve and looks to be difficult in the future: survival. We are humans who work together to live together. The next most basic purpose is to reproduce, which I do not believe you understand well enough as we continue to have children without knowing what to do with them or why we want them. Children are pure universe, freshly aware of itself. When they are able to talk and really articulate thoughts, they think that they know everything that one needs to know, and they are right. Adults will often say, kids think they know everything. Kids do know everything that they need to know. What they do not know is all that humans have created that distracts them from all that they really need to know. As soon as they can understand anything, and even before they can understand anything, for those who are extremists, children are told what to think about this universe. You can see the universe becoming aware of itself, making itself realization, through their actions more clearly than you do your own, as you watch them discover their own hands in amazement. Sex can be pleasurable, and is so because it is how we reproduce. The chemical reaction that causes pleasure is a survival mechanism for many species on this planet. And on this planet, we survive and reproduce. If sex is not for the desire to produce offspring or for the pleasure of sharing oneself with another for whom one cares, then it is merely to satisfy a primordial instinct that is inherent in all of us, which in turn will threaten to destroy the lives that we hold so dear. In the end, those who care will prosper within themselves. Circa 1994. That was one of mine. None of us chose to exist here on Earth. None of us chose to be men and women, much less did we choose for someone else to tell us what it means for us to be whom they think we should be. We are not responsible for this planet or any of the things that have occurred here because none of us asked to be born into our positions. If we so desire, we may choose to take responsibility for energetic events and beings on this planet as well as the planet, and we do. We often destroy it. Or we may not decide to take responsibility for anything, such as our actions, the actions of others, your trash and everybody else's, our emotions, this planet and its condition, the life that you have led and the things that have happened to you, and anything else that is a thing or occurrence. People are the universe, and you can blame them, but you are the universe as well, and people on this planet have a history that you may not understand. If you really followed this line of thought, then you would further understand that none of us chose to be born, and most of us are very frustrated by that, while we fail to recognize that we are frustrated by it. Hence, we attribute our frustration to some other aspect or aspects of the universe. We say, I did not ask for this. And you are right, so believe that first. None of us asked for this. We, as energetic beings of this universe, perceive the universe and act within it. Energetic patterns enter our brain, we process them, ponder them, and we often forget them as they go about in our brains, communicating their message to other parts of our brains while we are or are not looking or paying attention to them. We manipulate energetic patterns and energetic beings on this planet. We create buildings, businesses, and belief systems. Everything that we humans do is a manifestation of some mind that cognized and recognized some thought in the first place. Thus, everything that we have done can be considered or seen as a thought instead of, and in addition to, the labels that we assign to our creations and actions. In this way, you can see them for what they are, whatever they may be. Your movements are thoughts playing out in front of you, however organized or not so they may be. This is how you become great at anything you want. You realize that everything is happening inside your head and it has power that you have yet to discover. And when you discover what it can do and how accurately it can use the body and brain to execute actions outside of you, you will gain a greater appreciation for it. Everything you do becomes your galaxy, your home, your perfect conception of what can be done, given all universal factors. This is what we do on this planet to achieve anything and everything that we have achieved or will achieve. We cognize and recognize and recognize and cognize and recognize. Cognition is the acquisition of an X number of neurotransmissions that creates a set of such transmissions. This set of transmissions is later recognized assuredly with new transmissions not cognized previously. As a child grows, what does it recognize and become better acquainted with? The ability to recognize is memory. So what does that make forgetting? The inability to recognize, to retrieve enough patterns to put together a clear mental picture of some thought that the awareness would like to see as real or tangible, like that girl whose face seemed to look so serene as her hair bounced lightly with each gliding step. The unknown. Accepting new ideas involves the assimilation, merging of new ideas or cognitions, and perhaps accommodation of, making space for, ideas with previously recognized patterns. That can be frightening to one stuck with his recognitions without motivation to accept new ideas. The more one cognizes through A plus A, the more one may recognize, especially with repetition and strengthening. With recognition comes habituation to the recognized stimulus. The strange and unusual things that we experience have simply never been cognized. Hence, excitement of one sort or another, be it joy or fear, flight or fight response. As for the intensity of mourning a loved one's passing, this depends on the level of recognition that was developed between organisms. Stress from this event may be related to an overwhelming feeling of necessity to recognize what seems important regarding one's own life and the life that is no longer. To say, I recognize you, is to say that I have previously cognized you, and now I am doing so again, or have just completed doing so. We may ask ourselves, how many neurons have fired in response to this person or to my house? More than anyone else, most likely, and likewise for the homes of others. We say, I recognize you. And while recognizing whatever it may be, person, place, thing, or idea, The recognition of it pushes its existence further and further into familiarity or commonality to be more easily recognized at later times. This is love as it grows deeper. And for all the things we may together account for in our mutual recognizance, depending on the magnitude, power, and frequency of the actions, we may become more acquainted. When we become tiresome of our surroundings, bored, then there is nothing worth our recognition. As you and I may sit together that bright day over tea, take care to recognize at that moment I loved you and you me. Hey, this is not a science book, yet, so a little poetry surely must pass. And there is always more. What we do with our brains we commonly call thinking or processing. Cognition and recognition are words that are Latin in origin, and you may recognize the cogito in it all as you know it from the phrase cogito ergo sum, popularly translated as I think, therefore I am. Cogito means to think. You already know what the words are, cognition and recognition, as you use them all the time. You want recognition from others for everything that you do. You express that you failed to recognize someone. I hyphenated it for an effect, which would make it read more like recognize. Means, anyway. Sound familiar now? This is what we do with our brains semi-consciously all the time. We are a bunch of humans, cognizing and recognizing everything, every energetic assemblage of patterns that we encounter. Our brains cognize despite us. Our awareness has the ability to follow cognitions and take control of where they go, hence our waking hours. Do not start feeling mighty over your brain, or it will turn on you until you have really earned that respect from it. The brain has potential to cognize an infinite number of things in an infinite number of directions. You are able to join it from time to time. The more you fight your brain, the more it will fight you, and suddenly you will find yourself in a negative karmatic situation where you encounter self-fulfilling dharma or drama. Your brain will set you up without you knowing. So please be patient with it and stern. Then you may have some real fun that is not going to hurt you or anyone else. Many of these thoughts here on cognition helped me to piece together this system. In rereading it myself, I see the Descartesian roots of this system that state that we must exist if we are asking whether we exist or not. Those philosophers were freaking great. I mean, how simple is that? I think, therefore I am. Why do you think he would need to make a discovery like that about 366 years ago? I will tell you. Philosophically, you can deny the existence of everything you perceive. It is called solipsism, and the great thinkers of the time were subscribing to this philosophy. The professor who taught it to me, he lived a great and noble life, subscribed to this philosophy. That is an example of how lost we have been. Philosophy seeks to discover the absolute truth about everything. The symbol PhD means Doctor of Philosophy. With this in mind, there is still a lot of fallacious material to sort through no matter where you look. In our position, there exist no rules that we do not conjure up ourselves other than the rules of the universe which keep the earth turning and do not seem to keep us from killing each other. The options before you on how you live your life are infinite and always have been. We have created all the rules that we live by. To understand this, you must first realize that there are no rules. You make them up for yourself, or you accepted what others have made up for you, or what others have heard from others who made them up for them. The point is clearly that we made up all the rules that we currently attempt to live by, and in the past, we had to. What would things look like if we all lived completely without rules? Well, we could really do nothing at all but stand motionless without telling ourselves to follow some course of action. We would not even be able to think if we could truly live completely without rules. I know what you really think of when asked the above question. Total anarchy with everyone raping and pillaging, people doing whatever they want and screwing each other left and right. Even these people operate according to rules. Take a look around and look at the past. That is exactly what people are doing. There are no rules. Obviously, because people are doing the very things that you think they would do if there were no rules, because there are none. This is not a game. So, everything that we as humans have come up with to try to govern our minds has failed. Do you know why? It is because we have pushed upon each other that which is so incredibly flawed. We have served up lies to govern the brain. It is a brain that we are in. That is our existence, and the sooner you realize that, the more you can work with yourself and see that it and all that it shows you is not you, because you are looking at it and thinking of it. That makes it not you. Now, what might it be that you are looking at? Well, how about your tendency to abuse everyone you meet? You feel like you can't shake it. In fact, you may have not even thought of that until you read this. Do not fear. Abuse is a fact of life, but not in the way that you envision it. The spherical spectrum of abuse begins at none, like 0, and unfortunately goes on in severity, infinitely. I abuse myself when I write without eating or sleeping right, and in many other ways. As I recognize that I do this, I work on those aspects or behaviors as energetic patterns that are or are not being executed or followed through with. We are all gods, be us kings of foreign lands, forever. Judge me, you, for I'll do the same, as will your very flesh incessantly. Are there any who do not judge something, be it internal or external, organism or inanimate object? The nature possessed by all living creatures to assess aspects of their environments will continue to assist the inevitable theory that explains the fittest to survive. To judge is natural. To judge is to observe and conclude that something is or is not in a particular position. Since all organisms continually struggle to survive the difficulties of life, and in doing so notice seemingly harmful or painful elements more readily, these organisms are kept in a constant state of fear for survival and well-being. Judgments are passed to alleviate fear and ensure survival. Judgments separate animals from animals, plants from plants, organism from organisms, in the minds and brains of organisms. We teach each other not to judge each other. This sets us up to feel guilty when we do or must judge someone. We are the only judges here. As mentioned, judging is what we do. How you judge and how ethical, just, and moral you are is a different story. We have a tendency to judge unfairly all the time, and that is why we teach each other not to do it. This whole book is a judgment upon the human race. I do not think that the human race likes that, because the human race does not like to be judged. Why did we create something to judge us? We are horrible at judging each other. I believe that we can get better and that we have. We judge each other constantly, and we should graciously accept this. Through time, we learn to become better and fairer judges of ourselves, each other, ourselves, and every energetic assemblage of patterns that our eyes, ears, senses, and brains fall upon. That's right, I wrote ourselves twice. So, keep judging and see where punitive judgments get you as you look upon other people in disgrace. Look at yourself and judge all that you see with understanding or reservation, because you are aware that you may lack enough understanding to judge something within you or without. Without you meaning outside of yourself. Through the years, I have worried plenty about the judgments that may or may not have been placed upon me, or that will be placed upon me. 2 excerpts from my past jumped out of all the journals that I wish to share with you. Oh well, go ahead and judge me while I judge myself, then on to you. Many times it becomes necessary for one to put oneself in check, although I am barely one to preach to another about the necessity for that one to judge herself. Follow your flow of life, ride your path, and judge when called upon by yourself. Keep yourself and know yourself, for now you know best and you alone. Now, the fears you face are simply seen and are not aberrations of some other's dreams. How they judge is not salt that falls from the table. With their verdicts, see your truth of you as you, my friend, are able. Marvel not at your control, your power, or your ancient wisdom. Take lessons from lives that surround you. Let them shape you in accordance with your morals, and let them not control your thoughts, which belong to none other than you. You are not stupid and far from naive, but grieve in the absence of knowledge they have of you as they attempt to dissect you. As you watch them, remember, as they give you their parts, they shed points of light on the whole of your existence. One of our greatest achievements in poor, unjust, and unfair judging practices as a human race is racism. Racism is a false cover for stupidity and ignorance, much like religion. I am not sorry to say this, I am glad to inform you. Social stupidity hurts many people in very real ways. If you laughed at that, then you are a culprit. Thinking black people are black by any definition, even if you are a black person, is preposterous, because you are human, and the term black is a skin color and not the color of your awareness. Black is also a culture that has roots that society likes to jade and blow completely out of proportion. All societies support this black awareness, and thus it becomes something that you take on. But guess what? You are nothing you can name other than an awareness. And even then, you must speak in the third person. If you name yourself, you confine yourself to that name, like black, Jewish, Christian, white, and so on, dancer, etc. Oh, please, don't make me write a list of the labels that you put on yourself. Just go through the process of identifying all the things that you can possibly name yourself, only to realize that you are none of those things and that you are not equal to any label, but something much greater. I will tell you that you are an awareness. All the things that we have done to create culture have been done out of boredom, lack of knowledge, and served as survival mechanisms that are now, in many ways, useless. For example, why have 8 children in the city with no farm and no money? Is this setting a child up for success? Yes, I am saying that many people are having children out of boredom. And do we really need to cover women against their will and put dots on our foreheads that represent our extra sense, which we know we have without it? Question everything. Some of it's right. We are a race of people who are apparently unaware that we are all in the same position as I'm outlining that here. I have come to find that racism, which doesn't make any sense as a word, is a tremendous problem on this planet. I feel as though I have made it through some cracks and crevices. Forgive me if I have said this or am about to say it, but racism is culturalism, or cultural discrimination based on a thorough understanding of a culture. A person's culture consists of billions of energetic patterns within a person that express themselves to the outside world through the behavior of that person. You may dislike an aspect of a culture that a person or a group of people exhibit. Simple enough. You may be correct in your assessment of the destructive to constructive nature of any given cultural aspect, and since there are 7 billion people, then there are 7 billion cultures, each with many different cultural aspects that are rooted in thousands of years of ignorant human existence. What? You think that I don't know what I'm up against? Many groups exhibit similar cultures and thus exhibit similar energetic patterns of behavior. That behavior ranges from constructive to destructive to that culture and to the surrounding cultures. We wrestle with these concepts many times only to feel defeated by the masses who insist that a person's culture is that person or group of people. It is hard to argue when the person being accused agrees that they are their culture. How silly are we? The key to improved social cognition is awareness. If colors, human animals, are to coexist, then they need to do so with zero discrimination regarding the color of a human's skin. People in general have been repressed too long, limited in what we think we are able to do. Two things make us truly equal. Every individual human on this planet is different from the other, and we are all living humans on this planet right now. I understand that more often than not, beliefs come into conflict more readily when the difference gap seems very wide in the perception of two individuals. The benefit comes when we realize that these cultural gaps are inevitable in such a diverse and complex society such as that which exists on Earth today, subject to change. I love myself for my own existence and all of the people here for theirs. Trust and moral values are separate matters entirely. I loved you as an action when I wrote this. Each person has their own culture. Despite the recognition of a society as a culture, no two people experience an exactly identical history or belief system. So, there are as many cultures as there are people and more, since we have written many cultures to be remembered in books. My culture belongs to none other than myself, and this makes me just like everyone else. Different. However, people can and do act and believe in many of the same ways and use similar methods, lest we forget all the organizations of people and peoples. So, we all believe something different. Differences of varying degrees and extremes. I ask myself this question: how can any of us be correct in our actions and beliefs? And if anyone is correct, how will the rest of the world know it? Was Jesus right? Buddha, Hitler, Reagan, Genghis Khan, the dynasties of China, Lenin, Stalin, Karl Marx, Socrates, Plato, Freud, Descartes, Stephen King, Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Einstein, Newton, Galileo, the Lutherans, Nine Inch Nails, Madonna, Mom and Dad, Africans, Pacific Islanders? Were the Aztecs right? There is no right. There is only what is. Our cultures dictate these concepts to us with a fair amount of ambiguity, not very clearly. That is to say that our cultures do not explain anything very well currently, or I would not be writing this feeling much as Descartes must have felt when he concluded that he needed to meditate and journal his meditations to arrive at the conclusion that he was meditating, writing in his journal, and thinking, therefore, he must be existing, and then running and telling everyone of his discovery, only for the people to turn and call him crazy and a derelict. Hierarchical systems within our human culture are necessary, and there are many places within such systems in which we may fit at any given time. We will never believe everything in the same ways, only a few things. That is spoken to the artichoke, that we will always remain a diverse people, whether we all believe the same foundational beliefs or not. The people of the planet Earth spend their time alleviating boredom during their window of life. What else are we to do? On this planet, humans do a variety of things to pass the time while we are here. Humans abuse each other by not knowing their position and abuse each other for trying to convince each other of a position that is contrary to their perception of their position. Allow me to explain. Humans do not think that they are truly human first. They think instead that they are their skin color or that they are their religious affiliation or men and women first. Apparently, when humans of different skin colors encounter one another, the color of skin becomes an important issue to both parties. We are energetic beings trying to survive on a planet. We try to govern ourselves and most of the Earth's inhabitants despite their government and do not know how their government works and are not involved. Governance is what we do while we exist here. How we govern is up to us and always has been. And that concludes part 1 of chapter 6, Our Position.